Hi, Vessy. Thank you very much for joining me here today.
Hi, Joanna.
Vessy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What you're doing and where's your focus and so on?
Yeah, hi, I'm Vessy, founder of Vessy.com. I run my own consultancy. I focus on diversity and inclusion and mental health. I often work on the intersection of those two. I work with companies across Europe and North America. Some of those are SoundCloud, Typeform, Reward Gateway. I don't only work with tech companies, I work across industries as well. So I find I can bring the most value to my clients when I can bring knowledge from various industries and geographies.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Vessy. And Vessy, I wanted to talk to you today. We met first time when you help us out with Agile in Ireland conference to bring a bit more diversity into the conference. And I was inspired by some of the conversation that we had because I kind of understood that diversity is important, but it was like common sense. You know, it's
Mhm.
important because I believe everybody should have the same rights, but that was it. And then when I was talking to you, I discovered there is so much more to it, and I was inspired, and I thought maybe you could share those thoughts so people can understand more about the topic.
Mhm.
So Vessy, do we want to start maybe with the benefits? What benefits we can gain by looking at the diversity and inclusion in our environments? Because it's not only about workplaces; it's about any communities or any environments
Yeah.
that we are in.
Well, the first thing is really to see how, before even looking at the general benefits, is how does diversity and inclusion relate to our mission? So that would be the first point. The second one is to look at how does diversity and inclusion relate to the values that we have as an organization or as an initiative, conference or a company, whatever it is. Um, then we need to see how it relates to our team, our employees respectively, or our customers or end users. So when we look at all of those, yes, one of them is, creating equal opportunities for people. So it's something that's, the right thing to do. But there are many things beyond that. So let's say people who are on the team, how do we attract them? Do we have a diverse team? Because then that naturally shapes the products that we create and the customers that we can have. But also not just having a diverse team, do we um are we good at retaining this team? So let's say you're an engineering team where there, I don't know, 5 men and 1 woman. It's very hard to be that one person. So if you're that one person, like, does that woman leave? Is she happy in this team? Is there like macho culture? Does it feel like a boys club? um and it's a bit of a cliche saying those things. At the same time, when I do interviews with employees from companies where they experience teams like that, these are the very words, these are the very experiences that they have. So it's real for people feeling excluded on a daily basis in non-aggressive ways. So the other parties might not feel like they're doing something wrong. So it has to do with retention of the team. Sometimes you can see that even on a founders team level in smaller organizations. Then having diverse perspectives means that we can create more innovative products. We can collaborate better. It can be also more challenging, but the reward is there. Then we understand more diverse markets, so we can reach more people, or we can even strategically add people to our team or teams to um, understand new cultures or new perspectives to strategically go for those markets. So um, I really like this example with Swedbank. So they're a bank out of Sweden. They operate in the Baltics, and their motto is that they're the bank of the many. So as the bank of the many, they ensure that their employees mirror their customer base. But when I say their customer base, it's not just the existing customer base, because it was that, it would be like mostly Swedish people and then Swedish people on the employee side. But they were actually looking at the demographics of Sweden, and they said, well, there are 10% of the citizens now that are non-Swedish. We should have at least 10% reflecting that, because when people come in, they walk into the branch or they go on the website, and if they only see people who are not like them, then this is not the bank for people like them, right? So let's say Ali is a conference. So when people come to your website or when they come to your event, and they only see people who don't look like them, that will be very excluding. They were like, oh, let's say, oh, this is just for men, or I wouldn't really be welcomed here. It doesn't mean that every single woman will think that way. Or if I see that everyone looks very like heteronormative, I'll be like, oh my God, there are no gay people, like, or and it's not. Sometimes it's not even that it will discourage me from coming to the event or attending. I might come, but I might not feel like I can be fully immersed into the experience. So now it actually affects the value that you can create and what I take away from the event for myself, right? Do I have will I give you like a score of 6 out of 10? Or will I give you a 9 out of 10? And it might be something that I haven't even defined in a super conscious way, because it's all on Zoom, everyone has an equal experience, but do I feel represented on stage, be that a virtual or physical stage? So those would be some of the things. So at the end, it actually reflects on profit. If it doesn't reflect on revenue, sometimes it reflects on it comes from retention, so attrition costs that we have saved on from employees or from actually keeping our customers. In any way, there is a leaking pipeline, if we a leaking bucket, if you want, if we are focused on attracting people. Maybe as you said, we know diversity is important, but we don't quite get the rest of the picture. So then we keep bringing leads or talent, but then they just disappear because we're not doing a good job at keeping them. So we need to do both.
Yeah, thanks very much, Vessy. And I just would like to clarify something, because it hit me, I think, during the first conversation with you, because now here we are giving examples again about tech industry conference, like male-dominated industry. But for me, what stuck during our first conversation, it was every situation. It's an opportunity to look, does everybody here looks like me? If that's the case, then there is no diversity. And for example, and I'm using that now in every situation. So for example, I'm on the parent association committee for my son's school, and we are all females in similar age, all white. I'm like, okay, everybody looks like me. Where's the diversity? You go to HR maybe department, and then there's one male. Okay, there is no diversity there either. The diversity, basically what I'm trying to say, diversity is like, if people look like alike, there is no diversity. So it's not only looking about female, male, color or gender, but it's like age, disability. It stretches so much to have that full range. And that was something what you opened my eyes to it. It's not about male, it's not like 3 categories, male, female, color, ethnicity, and maybe like it's much more broader than that. And I just wanted to clarify it, because very often
there are about 15, 16 categories, and when I work with clients, we look at all of those. It doesn't mean we pay the same attention to all of them. So for example, in the US, if you're a veteran, is something that would be an important area. In Europe, it's not that much of a topic, or like we don't have that many veterans, so it's not something that we would be working on, but it's still, just in case, we'll still look into it.
But it's like basically what I'm trying to say, that you can look at diversity in every situation in your life. who are your neighbors, who are, you know, kids in the school with your kid, with your child. Like, diversity is absolutely everywhere, and it's since talking with you, I start actually spotting that. And
there's a great exercise here, very quick. Maybe you can do it with your team. It's called the circle of trust. So you put down the names of your closest people in your life, except for your partner or spouse, and then you go through a few categories of diversity, like diversity dimensions, and you put a tick. Let's say, let's say both of us are white, so I'll put a tick, etc., like for gender, nationality. So you can decide on the list, and then you look at how many ticks you got. The more ticks you got next to the names means the less diverse your group of people is. So then how, it talks about affinity bias. We all prefer people like ourselves because we feel more comfortable. It's instinctive, it's subconscious. But it also helps to see, oh, okay, so actually I haven't made an effort, but also my life hasn't exposed me to people that are different from me. That does impact how I do hiring, or what, I don't know, speakers I want to bring to to my conference or whatever it is. So it's a good place to reflect on that.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. I would say the innovation thrives on diversity. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes I find myself being like a one person company. I'm like, I don't get those other, ideas different from mine within my team, because I'm a team of one. Like, I work with partners when I deliver work for clients, but sometimes I miss that. So then if I had hired people who are like me, they would have similar or the same ideas as me, so I still wouldn't have those new ideas. So I'm trying to look at ways to get access to those ideas. But absolutely, we need diverse teams.
yeah, and that's very, very, very important, because those are like tangible benefits for somebody who is looking. And sometimes, yes, we know what's right, but we have no time for that. So this topic always is kind of skipped, because we are under pressure, we have no time. So I would like to, like, could we just put, I know it's like simplifying the issue into the points, but like give you benefits if there's a hiring manager and now it's in the position of hiring, what benefits tangible benefits they might gain by looking at diversity and actually investing time in that.
Well, think about it as any other project. You can calculate the the return on this investment, but you can also look at what are the costs. So as you said, it affects the innovation. If you hire the same people, you will have a stale approach. You won't be as adaptable, because all of those people you have, like when you're facing a crisis, you wouldn't have a lot of options how to go about the crisis. When you have more opinions, you have, or more different opinions, you will be in a better place. But if we're looking at numbers, we can talk about cost of attrition. We can look at opportunity to capture a new market, understanding better new customer segment. It's about going and actually doing the math, doing our homework.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. A bit tapped on in your previous few minutes ago, you were talking about, I think, enhancing somebody experience. So helping people to feel belonging somewhere. And something what really struck me in your report, so a 2020 diversity in the workplace report, was I really like how you linked diversity and inclusion with the mental health, because obviously it has a huge impact of people's mental well-being as well. Would you like to explore that, Alia, for shortly?
Yeah. And just for context, the report was published in February 2020, so it was before the pandemic. Yeah, it was really interesting to observe from the 2019 report where mental health was ranking in the last position, 12th at the time. Then in early 2020, so before the pandemic, like started in Europe and North America, it was in the 7th place. And since March last year, so March 2020, it has been in the 1st place. And I see that among my clients, I see that among their employees. And it's incredible to see that something like people who have never felt, have never experienced anxiety or depression or any level of, burnout are now facing those. And I think it helps for building empathy and recognizing some people have been struggling with this their whole life. But also, mental health is something that we all have, regardless of where it is. Like, do I have a good mental health, or do I feel anxious right now, whatever, or do I have a mental illness? And it's very similar, and it's the same as our physical health. So it's a unifying factor. But also, if we approach diversity and inclusion from a mental health perspective, then it can allow us to have, this like intersectional approach where, yeah, like different, let's say parents or caregivers or single parents would have more specific needs that will be around mental health. So maybe, you need some kind of support with having a childminder, for example, plus mental health, let's say getting your therapy, covered or whatever it is. Well, someone who's like younger, for them, mental health will be part of doing sports because maybe that's more immediate. It does the job for them. They might be interested in counseling, maybe not, but that will keep them in a good place, right? I'm going for a bit like stereotypical examples here, but if we compare it to physical, like health insurance, someone who's younger, they want to go to the gym, they want to have disposable income, they don't care so much about the like pension, healthcare insurance. But when they're in their 30s, 40s, 50s, those things change a lot. So here we can also think about how can we have like a la carte benefits. So there is a dedicated budget per employee, and how do we distribute that? And maybe they create their own menu in a sense. They can pick and choose which ones should be part of their budget, instead of getting benefits for things they won't use. Like, if I don't have a car, why do I need benefits related to a car when I can, let's say, move it towards my health insurance or expense my therapy sessions or whatever it is.
Yeah, thanks very much. So it's basically enhancing our uniqueness and just acting on different needs, and diversity here is a key as well, which is like, I find it fascinating that since I was talking to you probably a year ago or even a little bit more than that, I've noticed like the diversity is everywhere. And before I would just box it to one section, workplace, and now I just see it absolutely everywhere. Vessy, another question I would have, because that was an eye-opener for me as well during our first conversation. Can you tell me a little bit more about inclusive language? Because I start catching myself, and now I'm speaking and I'm correcting myself, and something that before that would be a complete abstract to me, and I was misusing my language a lot before. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about inclusive language and give maybe some examples so people can understand that better?
Let me ask you, what did you change?
So very often I was addressing, I work in IT, so when I was addressing the team, very often I would say guys. Now I always say guys and ladies, even though sometimes I have to correct myself. So it's like guys and then, sorry, and ladies. But for example, I'm much more aware of, I don't use the words like policeman now, I use police officer. And, so I would be much more sensitive towards gender bias terminology. But just I also understood more, and especially now in the context of what's happening in the States, we would have some in Polish language, we would have some common phrases which are not politically correct, and I don't use them anymore. And the same like in English language, there are some phrases that I think should be replaced.
You know what, it's interesting what you're saying there about guys and ladies. Like I wouldn't identify as a lady. So if I'm on your team and you say guys and ladies, I'm like, why are you assuming I'm a lady?
Okay, so you tell me. That's what I said. So you tell me how it, what.
So no. I'm challenging you because sometimes I go to meetings and there will be a guy who's trying to be very respectful, and maybe there will be also a woman on the call and who say, hi ladies, thank you for joining. He'll be very more than respectful. He would like be celebrating us in a way, and I'll be like, I never identified as a lady. So it's funny, it actually, like, he's trying, but it's actually doing the opposite.
Okay, so what should I use, like hi team? Hi, like going with more, because actually I'm very lucky, because at the moment when I'm working, people have those prefixes. So it's a he, him, she, her, and there's third
pronouns.
So like how people identify, but I exactly understand where you're coming from. So when you are in the group situation that you don't know people's identity, sexual identity, then sorry, not say gender identity. So then how do you address them? Hi team, hi everybody. How would you make it inclusive?
Yeah, hey everyone, hi team, hi all. Anything that that is kind of gender neutral, because you might think that like someone identifies as a certain gender because maybe they look like that gender, but they don't necessarily identify as that gender, or they're non-binary, or I'm pretty sure there are women who don't wake up in the morning thinking I'm a lady. They just maybe they identify as a woman, but lady is a bit different. For me personally, lady suggests a level of femininity that I never related to. So I identify as non-binary. I am comfortable when people use they or she. So if someone refers to me as a woman, like, I'm fine with that. But if it's a lady, I'm a bit like, well,
okay.
Now that's an assumption. I don't think I look like a lady. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like, imagine almost like, someone in the long dress, like Jane Eyre. And I'm like, nah, I didn't pick up flowers on my way to work this morning. Like, like Keira Knightley.
Okay, so
yeah, so
be
you can
more
experiment.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you can ask people. It's great that you have the pronouns in place, so you can be more aware, because it becomes even trickier when we talk about someone, and do we say he or she or they. So absolutely look at the pronouns. Also, when you talk about people you're not sure about their pronouns, it is better to use they. People will know you're talking about, who you're talking about. But for example, if I'm talking about you and I'm not sure about your pronouns, I can say, well, I spoke to Joanna, they had a few questions this morning, we recorded the interview, etc. People will not jump to any specific conclusion. I'm just not aware of your pronouns.
Okay, lovely. And can you quickly also explain why it is important to use inclusive language?
See, many people say, oh, this is not politically correct. And for example, you said it early, and I'm thinking, no, it's not about political correctness. It's about showing respect, paying respect to people. So if I call you, I don't know, Jennifer, it will be disrespectful because that's not your name. I can genuinely make the mistake, or it could be, I don't know, auto-corrected to Jennifer, but you're not Jennifer. So if I call you Jennifer, it's not true. So I should recognize my mistake, correct myself, make sure that I don't do it again, and that's it. So you're not picky or too sensitive for something for telling me that's not your name. It's just a fact. So it's similar when we, when we use pronouns or when we use any kind of language that reflects how people identify. So, for example, we could see someone who has dark skin. It doesn't mean that they identify as Black, for example. Or we can see someone who is mixed race, but maybe they prefer a different term that could be. We can be seeing them as mixed race, for example, but maybe they identify as Black, or maybe they identify as colored because they have been brought up in South Africa, and it has a different meaning. Like, well, colored would be inappropriate in other parts of the world. In South Africa, it is a thing. Like it makes sense. It's not disrespectful. So it's important to see how people identify. We can ask them. You wouldn't go to someone and be like, "So do you identify as a man or as a woman?" You can ask, "What are your pronouns?" Yeah, that's a polite way, respectful way to ask them about gender identity. But I wouldn't be like, "Hey, Joanna, like, do you think you're a man or a woman?" Like, that doesn't just make sense. That's like, so are you Jennifer and Joanna? No, like, you're Joanna, and it's for me to find out you're Joanna, or to recognize, even if I don't have to like find out. So how do I dress you without forcing you to maybe like disclose things that are not related to that? So let's say for trans people, it's their business how far they're into their transition, or how far they want to go, how what they feel comfortable with. What you're interested in is if you're addressing them in the way that is the preferred way, that is the way that's respectful to how they identify, just like anyone else. If you're John, you want to be called John because you're John. It's that simple. So it comes from simplicity and respect. Anyone who complains that this is hard is just being disrespectful and lazy in how they treat other people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And again, this is about making sure that everybody feels this sense of well-being and belonging. And I really like, because I think that's the phrase I pick up from your report. They feel they can be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important.